Hey friends, I just wanted to come in and share a part two to a video that I had shared a couple days ago. Now, if you have been hanging out with me for a little bit, you know that a couple days ago I shared a post or I shared a video about being in safe spaces in order to not engage in supremacy culture's tactics. Because when you are doing the work of decolonizing, deconditioning, dismantling, demolishing, unbecoming everything that you have been taught and trained to do under systems of supremacy culture, then you're going to need to be in safe spaces where people do not engage in those patterns and in those dynamics when you are working towards doing the work of undoing it, right? And so I had shared in the video the importance of having safe spaces so that people do not hook into the attack and defend and finger pointing and blaming and shaming that supremacy culture wants you to do when you have been called out and or called in, especially to a harm that you may have been done or that you may have done, that you may have caused. And so in this video, and I will go back and watch that video because I am going to mark that as part one. This one is part two. So go back and watch that. And in this video, what I want to do is I want to share with you how being in that safe space, not engaging with supremacy culture's patterns and dynamics, not doing what supremacy culture wants me to do, really allowed me to go through that process, come through the other side, and acknowledge that I was wrong. So backing up a step, this is in response to a post that I made about Tyre Nichols, and I was explaining that this is exactly the system wants you to feel like this. Oh, we're so shocked. Oh, we're so surprised. Oh, we're so disgusted that this happened again, right? The system wants you to do that, and then it wants you to freeze, and it wants you to not take any action. And in that post, I had written that actually this is exactly what the system wants you to do, and what in order for us to move beyond this and not see events like this happening over and over and over and over and over again, because I know that you know that there are countless of our Black and brown bodied brothers and sisters, now even our Asian bodied brothers and sisters, that are constantly being victimized, brutalized, murdered for no reason whatsoever other than the color of their skin and the way everybody else has internalized systems of supremacy and oppression within themselves, the ways that everyone else has internalized racism and hatred, because that is exactly what the system wants. The system wants you to other. It wants you to attack. It wants you to go on the defensive. It wants you to use shame. It wants you to use fingers and blame. It wants you to believe that oh, this just happens when whatever, right? Or they did something, or whatever the story might be. And so I wanted to speak. And so in that message, like I had said, this is exactly what the system wants you to do. And what you need to do in order for this to not keep occurring over and over, senseless deaths of people, of our brothers and sisters, senseless deaths because of acts of violence and hatred and domination and fear and control. And in it, I had said that the ways to undo this is by recognizing how these systems play out in you, recognizing how you participate in these patterns, in these dynamics, and then undoing it. So undoing all of the internalized supremacy, undoing all of the internalized racism, all of the internalized oppression that you engage in. And if you want support, here's how I can help you. And a community member had reached out. She's a dear friend, and a community member had reached out and said, I normally don't speak up, but this is capitalizing on Black death and it's not okay. And in my previous video, I shared how I'd gotten my nervous system had a response to that. It reacted. It went into a trauma response, a survival response. And instead I allowed myself to breathe through it. And I regulated my nervous system, and I was able to respond with loving kindness and say, what did I say to this person? I said to them, Thank you for sharing your perspective. And then I went and processed this with another friend who is in the DEI space, diversity, equity, inclusion, and we processed it. And I knew she was a safe person to process this with because we are both doing the work of undoing systems of supremacy. And so I knew that she was a safe space for me to go to so that she would not perpetuate those same systems, the same stories that the system wants me to perpetuate. And I was able to process through it. I was able to move through my emotions. I was able to even see her perspective on, like, in some ways, people who are DEI practitioners, people who are activists, actually are capitalizing on Black death, are capitalizing on BIPOC death, are capitalizing on mass murders, or mass shootings, are capitalizing on the Asian hate, anti-Asian hate campaigns, are capitalizing on the Holocaust and other events throughout our story that have create a rise in people, right? And so I reflected on it a little bit more, and I allowed it to just sit with me, not taking any action whatsoever, just like being with it. Because what this video is about is really, how do we move beyond? Like, how do we engage in what could potentially be conflict in a way that is still loving and kind, in a way that does not perpetuate supremacy culture. And so what I'm about to share with you is not so that you can give me accolades and praise and any of that. That is not what this is for. I am sharing with you the next steps of this process. Like I said, that was part one. This was just a summary of part one. And now I'm going to share with you part two, not so that you can give me accolades. That is absolutely not why I am doing this. What I am doing this for is to provide you with an example of what it looks like to navigate conflict in a healthy way, especially when you're being called out for something like you're capitalizing on Black death, or like you're being white supremacist, or you're being racist, or whatever it might be, right? There's a lot of that does happen. And actually, that's if this person loves you and cares about you enough to name the thing. And I am grateful that this person loved me and cared about me enough to name the thing, and point that out to me. And here's what I want you to know. Here are the next steps in, like, okay, because we just don't have healthy models and healthy examples. And my whole work is about teaching you how to decolonize your relationships. It's about helping you unlearn everything that you learned about living under these systems and structures, and learn everything about how to actually be in healthy, right relationship with yourself, with source, and with others. And so that is why I'm sharing what I'm about to share with you right now. So what ended up happening is I let myself sit with it for about 24 hours. It was just kind of, I processed through it, and then it just was. As the information was integrating, as my nervous system was calming, as it was regulating. As I mentioned, I did a lot of breathing through it. I did a lot of just holding myself through it. And I went to safe, supportive spaces and safe, supportive people that I knew would not add fuel to the fire. And literally in about 24 hours, it dawned upon me. I was like, wow. Yes, that person was 100% right, because what I could have done is I could have utilized this as an opportunity to amplify Black voices who are doing this work, to amplify Black educators, Black practitioners, and Black resources who are doing this work in a trauma-informed, trauma-aware way. Basically, the mentors from whom I have learned. And so I sent a message to this person and I let them know, you know what, I had an opportunity to reflect on it. And first of all, thank you so much for loving me and our relationship so much that you would speak up, like that you would do the labor and speak up and bring this to my attention. So first of all, thank you for that. And you were right. That was me, in a way, capitalizing on Black death. And I could have used it as an opportunity to amplify Black voices, Black educators, Black practitioners. And I'm going to go and edit my post so that it reflects that. And again, just thanking this person and sharing my love with them and letting them know, like, in the future, I will do differently. Like, I am now aware, I will do differently. And that, not that they had to do this labor, however, if they wanted to make any other recommendations on how I can correct the harm that I had done, to please let me know. And then, I went and I did that. I updated my post to reflect exactly the same thing. And I left the post in its original form up so that people could see an example of what that was and what it meant. And then I had done that video, part 1, and now this is part 2 to demonstrate to you what it looks like to come from a loving space, a space of love as you are navigating these types of situations, as we are navigating these types of potentially really explosive conversations. Because when you have the skills, when you have the tools, when you have the examples of what it looks like, it makes it easier for you. And so I want you to save this video, actually, forward to this part. I think it was about 7 minutes when I started talking about what I had done. And I'll actually write in the caption also what the steps are, so that you can see, so that you have an example of, okay, this is what I first need to do to take care of myself so that I do not get into a reactive place and engage in supremacy culture's patterns and dynamics and what it wants me to do. And then what I need to do is I need to have a safe place, a safe community, a safe someone with whom to process this, who will not add fuel to the fire, because it helps give you perspective. We are not meant to do this life alone. We are wired for social, like we are social creatures. We are social beings. We are wired to be in connection and in community with others. So when processing things like this, we need our safe people who, again, are not going to add fuel to the fire. And then we need to allow ourselves gentleness and ease. We need to allow our nervous systems to get back into homeostasis, in a place of rest and digest around whatever the situation was, so that the clarity can come through. And when that clarity comes through, you will also get the instructions and the steps on what actions to take, how to approach it, how to say it. Now, I have to be honest, I did not respond to this person immediately right away. I did receive the information of like, yeah, she was right. This is how I could have done it differently. I need to let her know that they were right. And I need to go through and do this and say these words. I did not immediately say this to them. I needed a little bit more time in order to be with my nervous system, to continue supporting myself as I prepared to take that action. And then I took the action, and then I bookended it again with my DEI friend and reporting back to that person what came up, what transpired, how I handled it, and then again processing through. So like bookending that, and that is how we navigate potentially a really highly conflictual conversations. I don't even know if that's a thing, but the point is that is how we navigate conflict, especially something that could potentially have exploded and turned into a big explosive thing, doing exactly that which supremacy culture wants, which is to further divide and conquer and attack and defend, and put us in a dynamic that was not relational, that put us in a dynamic that was me versus them. That's exactly what the system wants. And I don't want that for you. That is what I am here to eradicate. How do we get into right relationship with ourselves, with source, and with each other, so that we don't have experiences like this occurring over and over and over and over and over again? Because in part 1 of the video, I shared that in 2022, there were only 17 days that there was not an act of, that there was not a police-related death. And I can't even remember, we're like only 36 days into 2023, and there's already been countless mass shootings. And that's not even taking into account all of the people who within their homes are experiencing interpersonal violence, whether it be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or actually physically and sexually. And my whole mission, my goal, my purpose in life is to help us be in relationships, right relationship. Help us know how to be in community and relate with each other so that we don't continue operating out of fear and playing out these harmful dynamics and patterns in our relationships, which continue to traumatize us, continue to traumatize our children, and will continue to traumatize them, and so on and so forth. So that is the message I wanted to share. Again, go watch part 1. I will also highlight which post it was. I'm not gonna do like fancy, like pop it on the screen, here's what, it was. Like, I'm not here for that. I'm just here to get the message across to you. So I will go highlight which post that was so that you can go back and see it. Look for it in the captions. I'll direct you to it in the captions. And thank you so much for being here with me and joining me, and for doing this radical and revolutionary work of getting into right relationships, of decolonizing, deconditioning, unbecoming, unlearning everything that you have known, so that you can truly engage with yourself and with others from a space of genuine love, curiosity, and generosity. So thank you again for joining me, and I will talk to you again soon.